I think that the team has been put together. I think Klopp even said it in his press conference. We've all made a commitment to this year. That's like the agreement that you make when you start off a season. We're all committing to a year together. There's no guarantees at the end of any of this. And I agree with you. I'm seeing a lot of stuff online where basically everybody not associated with Liverpool Football Club is like, this is going to be a huge demoralizing blow to the team. And I agree with you. Like, I think it's the opposite. I think it will galvanize them. I think that the team has been put together. I think Klopp even said it in his press conference. We've all made a commitment to this year. That's like the agreement that you make when you start off a season. We're all committing to a year together. There's no guarantees at the end of any of this. Jurgen Klopp is leaving Liverpool Football Club at the end of the season. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to American LFC, and we have an updated Around the Ground episode for you today. American LFC is our podcast, two brothers talking everything Liverpool Football Club. Today, huge breaking news, transformative news. Our worlds are shaken. I say that sort of tongue-in-cheek, but also not that much. No more Jurgen Norbert Klopp at Liverpool Football Club after May. Eli, how do you feel?
Yeah, I mean, in the realm of sports, it is kind of, it's hard to take, right? But in the same breath, like, we can be really happy and excited for the future at the same time, So it's not like, show-stopping news. It is, kind of heartbreaking, but, the club is bigger than any one person, even the manager, so we'll continue on.
Yeah. I mean, what did you think when you first heard the news?
Well, so as one of my bad habits, I was checking my phone as soon as I woke up, and that was literally the first thing I saw on social media this morning, that breaking news, Klopp announced that he's leaving. So I was like, holy crap.
Right.
So then had to start digging into it to make sure it wasn't like fake news clickbait, and then saw the interview that he did with LFC TV, and was like, oh man.
So is that when you called me after you watched the interview, or?
Well, I think I texted you probably like 2 hours before you get up. And then I called you like an hour later to see if you were trying to figure out if you were awake.
Yes, I normally would have been awake by the time that you hit me up, but late night last night. So I didn't see it, but the moment that I woke up, everything, like, obviously I saw I had a missed call and some missed messages from you. And yeah. So it's interesting, having watched the interview that Klopp released with LFC TV, it all makes perfect sense to me.
It does, doesn't it? I mean, we
Go
had
ahead.
messaged back and forth a little bit initially about how the timing seemed strange, and kind of my thought was it kind of motivates the team to try and finish big for the boss. And it makes sense from a club standpoint, because if they had started feeling around for a new manager, then those rumors are going to start to leak, and it's going to unsettle everything. So it's best that it comes from him when the decision has been made and everything's finalized, and the club can, start looking for a replacement with plenty of time before preseason starts. They can have someone in the role and ready to go. Talking about summer transfer early, kind of front load thing, so it's not the day after the season, holy smokes, are scrambling for a new manager type thing.
Yeah.
And along those lines, though, also interesting is Pep Linders is leaving too, so that kind of rules out, I think, what most people would have thought is an immediate replacement, along with 3 other of the senior coaching staff. So,
And Schmetka.
And Schmecka is leaving at the end of the transfer window. Yeah.
I actually think that makes sense. I actually think all of it makes a lot of sense when you're a Liverpool fan. I think that we've had the privilege of experiencing and sort of having conversation in the way that fans do with Klopp by interacting with his press conferences, by consuming him as a entity in our lives. I don't think the way that this unfolded is strange at all. It actually makes like a lot of sense. I think Klopp has always been brutally honest about stuff. Like, he's always been upfront about everything. I think the thing is, like, I can understand on a human level, right, how just the weight of that decision on his shoulders, being secretive and not being part of the fans and not letting the players know, how that could weigh on him and also be a distraction, instead of just being like, here are the cards that we're playing with, let's deal with it.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. I'm seeing a lot of stuff online where basically everybody not associated with Liverpool Football Club is like, this is going to be a huge demoralizing blow to the team. And I agree with you. Like, I think it's the opposite. I think it will galvanize them. I think that the team has been put together. I think Klopp even said it in his press conference. We've all made a commitment to this year. That's like the agreement that you make when you start off a season. We're all committing to a year together. There's no guarantees at the end of any of this. So, yeah, I think that the team, I think even if it's 1 or 2 or 3% in those really, really dark times in tired, heavy leg games, you're a player who got your debut from a manager, and you look across the touchline and he's screaming at you, knowing that this could be some of the last times that he's doing so. I think you can't not be human and just be like, okay, let me do everything I can. I mean, the premise is that there's more to give than what these professionals are normally playing with, but I just think that there is.
Yeah.
It's just human nature.
That's just human nature, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So we'll see. I mean, like, yeah, it's tough. I think it's tough because, like, I think we've been able to fall in love with Jurgen. I think it makes sense. I don't think any of us thought that this was going to last forever. I think we personally have said on this podcast several times that we were like hoping he maybe did one more re-up. But obviously, I think everybody could see that there was like a writing on the wall last year when he, again, admittedly said in press conferences, I'm just I'm tired.
Yeah.
I'm exhausted. And I think that there was something that was really interesting. I can't remember because I've been watching so much stuff today. I can't remember if it was in the press conference or if it was in his interview, where he also mentioned like not only is like, you know, the blow, like last year was a really tough year, like probably emotionally and physically, and just like just nothing went our way last year, really. And that's like a big thing, you know. And he even mentioned the summer transfer window in one of the pieces that I watched.
Yeah.
Which was that he had mentioned how emotional that was too. Which, if you actually think, like, you take it like, oh, what does that mean? You're like, yeah, don't forget that we had agreed to sign $115 million central defensive midfielder who was arguably the best in the planet, to then lose him the next day.
Right.
Like, Klopp went to sleep knowing that we were going to sign Moises Caicedo and woke up the next morning and he's going to sign for Chelsea.
Yeah.
Right? Like, okay, it's sports, like, stuff like that happens, but it's just like that, as well as some, also Jude Bellingham turning Liverpool down. Like, there's just, like, it was a very tumultuous transfer window following a very difficult emotionally turbulent season prior to that. With 2 COVID seasons before that, it's like all the energy it takes to go for the quadruple. To me, if now that the news is broken and we're looking back in hindsight, it feels like last year was when he was like, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
but he's just had such a commitment to the team and to the city that he's like, I can't leave them in this shattered place. I can't leave it worse than I got it. So I'm going to bust my ass for a year to make this the best that it can be. And then peace out.
Yeah.
And here we are.
I did see an interesting thing that Jurgen Klopp has finished 3 seasons at 92 points or better and has one Premier League title. And Ferguson never got over 91 points and has 13 Premier League titles. So it's just interesting how sport works out, right?
Yeah, it's just, unfortunately, it's just he's playing in a different era with different rules.
Yeah.
You know, that's the truth. And I'd be interested to see the longevity of Klopp if some things went a little bit more his way.
Yeah.
You know, like the roll of the dice. Like 11 millimeters and Sane misses that shot.
Yeah.
We win the league.
Yeah.
You know, Paul Tierney gives a handball to Everton when Rodri arms it in the penalty box. That's 2 leagues. That's 2 leagues right there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Mo Salah doesn't get injured by Sergio Ramos. Courtois doesn't have the best game he's ever had in his life, the Champions League final.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? All these margins. Like, it would be interesting to just see what the energy levels feel like if those reserves were filled up with more parades and more trophies.
Right.
Which would seem deserving, but that's the fickle nature of sport. That's why we love it, you know?
Yeah.
So
I guess we'll do one more thing here, and then we'll sign off. Who is your favorite to replace him?
Who do I think should replace him, or who do I think will replace him?
Who do you think should replace him?
A younger Jurgen Klopp. I don't know. I know everybody's leaning towards Alonso, which I think makes sense as an appointment, but I was also just like looking over his Wikipedia, and while he's doing really well at Leverkusen, he's had 2 seasons at Real Sociedad B. This is his first season or second season at Leverkusen. He had 1 season at Real Madrid under 18s. We're talking about 5 seasons of managerial experience here.
Mm-hmm.
Taking on one of the largest. I'm just worried that if he does take the appointment, that it turns into a Frank Lampard situation. That's my concern.
Bill Shankly had never managed a Division 1 club until he took over Liverpool.
That was 60 years ago, without playing against people with clubs that were owned by the local fabric factory owner. You know what I mean? It's like this is a totally different thing. The press, the microscope that is underneath it, the pressure that comes along with the gig, the financial disparity between the clubs, like the expectations that Klopp is leaving them off with. Like, I hear you. I think he's the best candidate for the job, probably, because there's nobody else. Like, look, the other 2 people that people are probably talking about are Nagelsmann, because he's been in the conversation for a couple years.
Mm-hmm.
He's also very young. He's had like 2 spells at teams that were like good, but Bayern Munich didn't go that well. You know,
mm-hmm.
I looked him up. I looked up his Wikipedia too. He's younger than I am.
Oof.
Yeah. And then also De Zerbi is the one that people are talking about. I think that there's something that makes sense about that, which is that he's Premier League proven. Like, he's actually played in this league before. Klopp coming in obviously shows that doesn't really matter. But, I mean, Klopp was such a diamond in the rough, right? There's nobody out there who's available who got Borussia Dortmund to a Champions League final like 2 years before taking this job.
Yeah, that's true.
That manager doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So, okay, I've spoken a lot. Who do you think?
I think my heart says Xabi Alonso. I mean, he's played for the club. He's won silverware for the club as a player. I think he gets the identity of the club, and it would mean a lot to him, which, as we were just talking about, human nature is what allows you to kind of give that extra ounce. But I think De Zerbi is probably the most realistic appointment.
I think if we approach Alonso, there's a part of me that would be surprised if he takes the job.
You think so?
It seems like he's been really specific, even in the brief period of time that he's been managing, because he was approached while he was the manager of Real Sociedad B to manage Tottenham Hotspur, and he turned it down, even though his contract came to the end, even though his contract was up at the end of the season. And then he re-upped with a longer contract with them. So it just seems like he might be quite contemplative about it and understanding what it is that he can bring to the club.
Yeah. Well, we'll see.
We will. Either way, I think there are a lot of sad people out there. I think it's totally fine to mourn and be sad and to feel bummed about it. But I agree with you from the top, which is like, A, this is just football. And also, this was inevitable.
Yeah. Had to happen someday.
We knew this would happen, and the club will continue on.
Yep.
Okay. We'll talk to you guys after the Norwich game, probably.
Yeah.
And
leave us some comments on who you think should be the Liverpool manager. Leave us some comments about what you think about Jurgen Klopp's time in charge. What your favorite memory is.
Your favorite moment was. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, let us know what your favorite moment was. Like, subscribe, all that stuff.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks.